Welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into one of the most intense and, honestly, detailed chapters in the book of Numbers. We're talking about chapter 31, a story of vengeance, purification, and some seriously meticulous accounting.
So right out of the gate, the story kicks off with a command that leaves zero room for interpretation. This isn't a suggestion, it's not a negotiation, it's a direct divine order for retribution, and it sets the entire stage for everything that's about to unfold.
And this command, it immediately triggers a highly organized military mobilization. This isn't a chaotic rush to arms. It's a calculated, national effort with very specific instructions. Now look at how this army is built. It's not just a random group of fighters. It's a perfectly balanced force, 1,000 men from every single tribe. And notice, right from the jump, the military and the spiritual are completely intertwined. You've got Phinehas, a high-ranking priest, not just blessing the troops from the sidelines, but actually going with them, bringing sacred items right into the conflict zone.
So what happens next? Well, the battle itself is described as incredibly swift, and in its first phase, absolutely total. The narrative paints a picture of a complete and overwhelming victory.
I mean, the outcome is just devastatingly complete. The entire Midianite leadership is wiped out, their towns and camps are burned to the ground, and the army returns with everything. Not just treasure, but the entire surviving population and all their wealth. They've essentially brought a whole subjugated nation back to their camp.
But when the army gets back, the story takes a really sharp and frankly unsettling turn. Moses is furious. He believes the original command wasn't carried out completely, and this leads him to issue a new, even more severe directive. This is where Moses lays down this chillingly specific order. The line he draws is based on age and sexual history. He explicitly links this back to an earlier incident, claiming it was the Midianite women who led the Israelites into sin. So in his view, this isn't just random cruelty, it's the final, brutal piece of the original command for vengeance.
Okay, so after all that violence, the focus does a complete 180. The narrative shifts dramatically away from warfare and zooms in on a mandatory period of ritual purification for both the soldiers and all the plunder they brought back.
And here's a really crucial point to understand. Even in a war that was commanded by God, the act of killing and touching the dead created a state of ritual impurity. This isn't about feeling guilty, it's about being ceremonially unclean. So this whole 7-day process was basically a required spiritual reset button for the soldiers, their captives, and every single thing they touched.
You know, this is a perfect example of this systematic logic in these ancient laws. It's not arbitrary at all. For items that can take the heat, like metals, they have to pass through fire, the ultimate purifier, and be cleansed with water. For everything else, it's just the water. It's a very precise, two-tiered system for making things clean again.
And that brings us to the final phase of this whole saga. The accounting. After the war and after the purification, it's time for the paperwork. Every single thing they brought back is about to be counted and divided up according to a very precise divine formula. The sheer scale of the plunder is just staggering. The text starts the inventory with the livestock, and first up on the list, 675,000 sheep. I mean, that is an unbelievable transfer of wealth.
Next up, you've got 72,000 cattle. And remember, in an agrarian society, this is way more than just food. This is economic power, it's labor, it's leather, it's everything.
And the list just keeps going. 61,000 donkeys. You can think of these as the cargo trucks and the engines of commerce for the ancient world. Absolutely essential.
And finally, the text gets to the human spoils that were spared from Moses' second command. 32,000 virgin women. And what's so stark here is how they're counted, with the exact same clinical precision as the livestock. It's a pretty jarring reminder of their status as plunder in this whole affair.
So now that everything's been counted, how do they split it all up? Well, the first step is actually incredibly simple and fair on the surface. It's a perfect 50-50 split. Half of everything goes to the 12,000 soldiers who did the fighting, and the other half goes to the rest of the Israelite community, the ones who stayed behind.
But it doesn't stop there. It gets more complex. From each of those two big halves, a special tribute, basically a tax, has to be taken out for religious purposes. And check out the different rates. The soldiers pay a tiny fraction, just 1 out of every 500 items, to the priests. But the community, they have to pay a rate that's 10 times higher, 1 out of every 50, to support the Levites, who take care of the tabernacle. It's a whole tiered system of religious taxation built right into the spoils of war. Now, after all of this required division and taxation is done, something pretty remarkable happens. The army commanders do a head count and they realize they didn't lose a single soldier, 0 casualties. And out of gratitude, they decide to give an additional completely voluntary offering to God.
And we're not talking about a small donation. The total weight of this gift was an incredible 16,750 shekels of gold, all in the form of jewelry and crafted items. This immense treasure was then brought right into the tent of meeting to serve as a permanent memorial of God's protection.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought, right? This chapter is so much more than just a brutal war story. It's like a detailed blueprint for how this ancient society processed conflict. It reveals a world where military action, ritual purity, and economic distribution aren't separate things at all. They are all inseparable parts of one highly structured theological system.